So, not only are we the real Indians, apparently we are the real Egyptians, the real Hebrews, and I'm assuming the Anunnaki. Welcome to America.
This belief system, often associated with various conspiracy theories, posits that America is the true Old World, and that significant historical and biblical events took place there instead of in traditionally accepted locations like the Middle East or Africa. Proponents argue that ancient civilizations, including those mentioned in the Bible, originated in America and that evidence has been deliberately hidden or suppressed. They often reference various interpretations of archaeological findings, ancient texts, and even geographical features to support their claims. These ideas are frequently disseminated through social media, alternative history websites, and various online platforms, attracting followers who resonate with the notion of an alternative historical narrative. Critics argue that these beliefs lack credible historical evidence and often rely on misinterpretations or fabrications. Such perspectives can promote misinformation and contribute to a distorted understanding of history and civilization. It's essential to approach these claims critically and rely on well-documented historical research to understand the complexities of our past accurately. The claims that significant historical and biblical events occurred in the Americas, including the belief that ancient civilizations like those of Egypt existed there, lack credible archaeological or historical evidence. While there are fascinating archaeological findings in the Americas, such as the advanced civilizations of the Maya, Aztec, and Inca, these cultures developed independently and do not support the claims of them being linked to biblical events or ancient Egypt.
Well, what about the mound builders?
Some proponents point to the Mississippian culture, known for its large earthen mounds, as evidence of a lost civilization. However, these societies are well documented within their own historical context and are not connected to the narratives involving biblical events.
And the pyramids?
The pyramids built by the Maya and Aztecs are often compared to those in Egypt. While both structures serve similar purposes, they arise from entirely distinct cultures and traditions without direct correlation between the two.
And you have the Hebrew writing.
Some claim to find parallels between biblical texts and indigenous oral histories. However, these interpretations often lack scholarly consensus and can be misrepresented
By morons.
Geographical features. Claims that certain geographical features in the Americas correspond to biblical locations are often speculative and not supported by geographical or historical evidence. Overall, while the Americas have rich histories and diverse cultures, the assertions made by those claiming that significant biblical events or civilizations originated there are not substantiated by credible evidence. Scholarly research emphasizes the importance of understanding these cultures within their historical contexts rather than attempting to link them to unrelated narratives.
The dumbing down of Black America.
The idea of Egyptian artifacts being discovered in the Grand Canyon originated from a 1909 article published in the Arizona Gazette. The article reported that a team of explorers, led by a man named G.E. Kincaid, allegedly found ancient Egyptian artifacts in a cave near the Grand Canyon. According to the article, these artifacts included statues, tools, and hieroglyphics, suggesting that there was an ancient civilization with connections to Egypt in the Americas. However, this claim has been widely discredited and considered a hoax or urban legend. No credible archaeological evidence has ever been found to support the existence of Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon, and subsequent investigations have not corroborated the claims made in the newspaper article. The story has persisted in popular culture and conspiracy theories, often cited by those who believe in alternative histories, but remains unverified by legitimate archaeological research. The Grand Canyon is historically occupied by several Native American tribes. The Havasupai reside in the Grand Canyon, specifically in Supai Village at the bottom of the canyon. The Havasupai have treaties with the United States, including the 1882 agreement that established their reservation. Hualapai Tribe. Location. The Hualapai people live in the region surrounding the Grand Canyon, with their reservation located to the west of the canyon. Treaties. They have agreements including a 1883 treaty that recognizes their land rights. The Navajo Nation is one of the largest tribes in the United States, with lands extending into the northeastern part of Arizona, including areas near the Grand Canyon. Treaties. The Navajo Nation has a series of treaties with the U.S. government, including the Treaty of 1868, which established their reservation. While not directly in the Grand Canyon, the Zuni people are located in New Mexico but have historical ties to the region. Treaties. The Zuni have treaties with the U.S. government that recognize their sovereignty and land rights. These tribes have historical and cultural connections to the Grand Canyon and have established treaties with the U.S. government to protect their rights and lands. The relationships between these tribes and the federal government continue to evolve, with ongoing discussions regarding land use, cultural preservation, and rights.
Historical continuity. Well, what about Yahweh? They like to say Yahweh is a American deity and that the natives say Yahweh. What about Yahweh?
There is no credible evidence to suggest that the deity Yahweh, as worshipped in the context of ancient Israelite religion, was worshipped in the Americas before European contact. The worship of Yahweh is primarily associated with the ancient Hebrew people and can be traced through biblical texts and archaeological findings in the Near East. While some groups may claim connections between Yahweh worship and ancient American cultures, these assertions lack solid historical or archaeological backing. Most indigenous cultures in the Americas had their own distinct spiritual beliefs and deities that were deeply rooted in their histories and traditions. Any claims suggesting a direct link between Yahweh worship and pre-Columbian America often stem from speculative interpretations, misunderstandings, or attempts to connect disparate belief systems without credible evidence. There is no credible archaeological or historical evidence to support the claim that Native American tribes are direct descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. Most claims linking Native Americans to the lost tribes of Israel are based on cultural interpretations, oral traditions, and speculative theories rather than concrete evidence. Genetic studies have shown that Native American populations have distinct ancestry that traces back to ancient migrations from Asia, rather than connections to the ancient Israelites. While some tribes may have narratives that draw parallels with biblical stories, these should be understood within their cultural and spiritual contexts, rather than as historical fact. Overall, the idea of Native American tribes being descendants of the lost tribes of Israel remains a belief held by some but lacks scientific validation. There are no widely accepted linguistic similarities between Hebrew, including Proto-Hebrew, and the Algonquin or Muskogee languages. Hebrew belongs to the Northwest Semitic branch of the Afroasiatic language family, while Algonquin and Muskogee are part of the Algic and Muskogean language families, respectively. Hebrew is Semitic, while Algonquin and Muskogee are indigenous languages of North America with different roots and structures. Linguistic structures, the syntax, phonetics, and vocabulary of these languages differ significantly, reflecting their distinct historical and cultural backgrounds. Linguistic research. While researchers may explore potential parallels in isolated words or phrases, such findings are often coincidental and do not indicate a direct relationship between the languages. Overall, any perceived similarities are typically minimal and do not suggest a direct connection between Hebrew and Native American languages like Algonquin or Muskogee. Semitic languages originated in the Near East, specifically in the regions encompassing parts of modern-day countries such as Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, and Iraq. This area is often referred to as the Fertile Crescent. The Fertile Crescent was home to some of the earliest human civilizations, including the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Canaanites, which contributed to the development of language and culture. Agricultural development. The region's fertile land supported early agricultural societies, leading to population growth and the establishment of complex social structures that facilitated language development. The proximity of various cultures and trade routes allowed for linguistic exchange and the evolution of languages, including the development of Semitic languages. The region is significant in the history of major religions, including Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, which have all contributed to the preservation and evolution of Semitic languages. Overall, the combination of historical, agricultural, and cultural factors in the Near East played a crucial role in the emergence and development of Semitic languages. The concept of a language tree suggests that languages evolve and branch off from common ancestors over time. Sumerian and Egyptian are often cited as some of the oldest known written languages, dating back to around 3100 BCE. These languages, however, are not directly related to Semitic or Algonquin languages. Semitic languages are believed to have emerged around 3000 to 2000 BCE in the Near East. The earliest known Semitic language is Akkadian, which was used in ancient Mesopotamia. Algonquin languages, part of the Algic language family, are believed to have evolved much later. The exact time frame is harder to pinpoint, but they likely began to develop around 1000 to 500 BCE or even later, with the first evidence of written forms appearing after European contact in the 1600s. In summary, Semitic languages developed significantly earlier than Algonquin languages, with a gap of over a millennium between their respective beginnings. The idea that America is the Old World, and that life originated there is considered improbable for several reasons. The fossil record shows that the earliest known life forms originated in the ocean and later on land, with significant evidence of ancient life found in Africa and the Middle East, not in the Americas. The prevailing theory of human migration suggests that the first peoples arrived in the Americas from Asia via the Bering Land Bridge around 15,000 to 20,000 years ago, long after early human civilizations had developed in Africa and the Near East. The development of early civilizations, such as those in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, occurred independently of the Americas and laid the foundations for agriculture, writing, and complex societies. These civilizations predate significant cultural developments in the Americas. Genetic studies of indigenous peoples in the Americas show distinct lineages that trace back to Asian populations, further supporting the theory of migration rather than an indigenous origin in the Americas. Linguistic studies and archaeological findings support the idea that major cultural and technological advances originated in the Old World and were not found in the same form in the Americas until after contact with Europeans. Overall, the combination of fossil, genetic, cultural, and archaeological evidence strongly supports the view that life and early human civilizations originated in the Old World, making the idea of America as the original Old World highly improbable. The earliest evidence of human presence in North America dates to around 15,000 years ago, with some sites, like Clovis culture sites, suggesting even earlier occupation. Over the millennia, diverse indigenous cultures and societies developed across the continent, adapting to various environments and resources. Archaeological evidence, sites such as Monte Verde in Chile and the Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Pennsylvania provide insight into early human habitation and activities. Overall, humans have inhabited North America for a significant period, with a rich history of cultural development and adaptation. Human beings were present in the Americas long before the biblical events described in the Old and New Testaments. Archaeological evidence indicates that the first humans migrated to North America around 15,000 to 20,000 years ago, well before the timeline of biblical history. Pre-Columbian civilizations, various indigenous cultures and civilizations developed throughout the Americas, including the Olmec, Maya, Aztec, and Inca, long before any biblical events took place. Cultural development. These cultures had their own rich histories, belief systems, and social structures that were distinct from those of the ancient Near East. 3. Archaeological evidence. Sites such as Clovis and Monte Verde provide evidence of human habitation and activity in the Americas long before the events described in biblical texts. Overall, the presence of humans in the Americas predates biblical history by thousands of years, highlighting the continent's diverse and ancient cultural heritage. The major American cultures are not older than the ancient Middle Eastern cultures. While there are evidence of early human habitation in the Americas dating back around 15,000 to 20,000 years, the development of complex civilizations in the Middle East, such as those in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Indus Valley, occurred much earlier. Ancient Middle Eastern cultures, civilizations like the Sumerians in Mesopotamia, emerged around 3500 to 3000 BCE, making them some of the earliest known complex societies. The Middle East saw the development of writing, agriculture, and urbanization long before significant civilizations arose in the Americas, such as the Maya or Aztec, which developed around 2000 BCE to 1500 CE. Archaeological evidence. Archaeological findings indicate that the social, political, and technological advancements in the Middle East occurred earlier than those in the Americas. Overall, while indigenous cultures in the Americas have rich histories, the earliest complex civilizations in the Middle East are older and laid the foundations for many aspects of human civilization. The use of terms like corn in the Bible and the presence of cocaine in Egyptian mummies are often discussed in the context of trade and cultural exchange, but they require careful examination. The term corn in the Bible often refers to grains in general, particularly wheat or barley, rather than the specific crop known as maize or corn in the Americas. The biblical context predates the introduction of maize to the Old World, as maize was domesticated in the Americas and did not reach Europe, Africa, or the Middle East until after Columbus's voyages in the late 15th century. The presence of cocaine in Egyptian mummies has been a topic of debate among researchers. Some studies have reported traces of nicotine and cocaine in mummies, leading to speculation about ancient trade routes and contact between the Americas and the Old World. However, these findings are controversial and not widely accepted. Critics argue that contamination or misinterpretation of results could explain the presence of these substances. The prevailing view among historians and archaeologists is that there is no credible evidence of direct contact between ancient Egyptians and the Americas before the arrival of Europeans. While both topics are intriguing, they do not provide evidence of significant connections between the Americas and the Old World prior to European contact. The use of terms and the presence of certain substances often require further investigation and context to understand their implications fully. There is no evidence to suggest direct contact or influence between these ancient cultures. The Mississippi River is often compared to the Nile River due to their significant roles in supporting ancient civilizations, but they function in different contexts. Both rivers are vital waterways for transportation, trade, and agriculture. The Nile was essential for the development of ancient Egyptian civilization, while the Mississippi River played a crucial role in the growth of various American cultures and cities. Both rivers provided fertile land for agriculture, supporting large populations. The Nile's annual flooding deposited nutrient-rich silt, while the Mississippi River's floodplains also contributed to fertile soil for farming. Memphis, Tennessee, founded in 1819 by John Overton, Andrew Jackson, and James Winchester, Memphis was named after the ancient Egyptian city of Memphis, which was the capital of ancient Egypt. The name reflects a fascination with ancient cultures during the period of American expansion and settlement. 2. Cairo, Illinois. Cairo, Illinois, was established in the early 19th century and named after the Egyptian city of Cairo. The name was chosen by early settlers who recognized the strategic location of Cairo, Illinois, at the confluence of the Mississippi and Ohio rivers. Conclusion. While the Mississippi River and Nile River serve similar functions in terms of supporting civilization, they are part of different historical and cultural contexts. The cities of Memphis and Cairo in the Americas were named by settlers inspired by ancient Egyptian culture, reflecting a broader trend of naming places after significant historical or cultural references. In the Bible, Egypt is often referred to as a place of misery or bondage, particularly in the context of the Israelites' enslavement before their exodus. The term Egypt itself comes from the Greek Aegyptos, which is derived from the ancient Egyptian name Hwt Kata, meaning House of the Spirit of Ptah, referring to a temple in Memphis. The references to Egypt in biblical texts often highlight its role as a place of oppression for the Israelites, contrasting with the promise of freedom and the land of Canaan. This duality emphasizes both the historical significance of Egypt and its symbolic representation of struggle and suffering in the biblical narrative. People may perceive America as a modern Egypt for several symbolic and spiritual reasons, often drawing parallels between the two in terms of oppression, cultural identity, and societal challenges. 1. Land of oppression. Just as Egypt is depicted in the Bible as a place of bondage for the Israelites, some view America as a land where various marginalized groups experience systemic oppression and struggle for equality and justice. 2. Cultural identity. Egypt has historically been a melting pot of cultures, and similarly, America is seen as a diverse nation where various cultures and identities converge. This can create a sense of both richness and conflict in cultural identity. 3. Hope for deliverance. The story of the Israelites' exodus from Egypt symbolizes hope and liberation. 3. Hope for deliverance. The story of the Israelites' exodus from Egypt symbolizes hope and liberation. Some see parallels in the ongoing struggles for civil rights and social justice in America, viewing movements for change as modern-day quests for liberation. 4. Materialism and moral decay. Egypt is sometimes associated with material wealth and moral decline in biblical narratives. Some people may perceive America as a society grappling with similar issues of materialism, consumerism, and moral challenges. The comparison of America to Egypt reflects a complex interpretation of societal issues, cultural identity, and the ongoing quest for justice and equality. This spiritual perspective can serve as a means for individuals to articulate their struggles and aspirations within the context of their cultural narratives. The idea that America is a modern-day Egypt has roots in various historical, cultural, and spiritual interpretations. It is often linked to colonial and early American thought. Early American settlers and thinkers sometimes drew parallels between their experiences and biblical narratives, including the story of the Israelites in Egypt. This reflection was often used to justify their own struggles and aspirations for freedom and land. During the era of slavery, African American spirituals and narratives often referenced Egypt as a symbol of oppression. This connection was used to express the desire for liberation and to draw parallels between the plight of enslaved people and the Israelites' exodus from Egypt. In the 20th century, the civil rights movement saw leaders and activists draw comparisons between the struggles for equality in America and the biblical narrative of liberation. This reinforced the idea of America as a modern Egypt, particularly in the context of systemic oppression faced by African Americans. Some alternative history narratives and conspiracy theories emerged in the late 19th and 20th centuries, proposing that ancient civilizations, including Egypt, had connections to America. These theories often lacked credible evidence but contributed to the idea of America as a spiritual or historical parallel to Egypt. The notion that America is akin to Egypt has evolved over time through various cultural, religious, and historical lenses, often reflecting the struggles for freedom, identity, and justice within American society. People who believe in the idea that Egypt and America are the same may not emphasize Nubia as the foundation of Egypt for several reasons. Focus on simplified narratives. Many adherents to this belief may prefer simplified narratives that highlight direct comparisons between Egypt and America rather than acknowledging the complexities of ancient civilizations, including the significant influence of Nubia on Egypt. There may be a tendency to overlook or simplify the contributions of African civilizations, including Nubia, in favor of narratives that align more closely with their beliefs about Egypt and America. This can stem from a lack of awareness or understanding of the historical context. Racial and identity dynamics. Discussions about Nubia's influence on Egypt can challenge prevailing narratives that prioritize Eurocentric views of history. Some may avoid these discussions to maintain certain ideological positions or identities that do not fully embrace the broader African heritage. The lack of emphasis on Nubia in these discussions may reflect broader patterns of historical interpretation, cultural identity, and the desire for simplified narratives that resonate with specific belief systems. Acknowledging Nubia's foundational role in the history of Egypt can enrich the understanding of ancient civilizations and their interconnectedness. The preference for linking America to Egypt rather than other places in Africa where humanity originated may stem from several factors. Cultural symbolism. Egypt is often romanticized in Western culture as a symbol of ancient greatness, wisdom, and civilization, making it a more appealing reference point for those seeking to draw parallels with America. Many narratives around the origins of humanity focus on Egypt due to its prominent role in ancient history, particularly in relation to monumental achievements such as pyramids, writing, and advanced society, which may not be as well known or understood in other regions of Africa. Linking America to Egypt can serve as a form of validation for certain beliefs about cultural greatness and historical significance, whereas other African regions might not carry the same weight in popular or academic narratives. Africa has a rich and diverse history that includes many civilizations and cultures. However, the complexity of this history can sometimes overshadow specific narratives, leading to a focus on more recognizable symbols like Egypt.
Raute, 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 5. Stern, Misunderstanding of African Heritage Stern.
There may be a lack of awareness or understanding about the contributions of various African cultures to human history, leading to a preference for more familiar or widely recognized symbols.
Raute, 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 Konklusion.
The tendency to emphasize Egypt over other regions of Africa in discussions about the origins of humanity may reflect cultural biases, historical narratives, and the desire for connections that resonate with contemporary beliefs. Acknowledging the broader spectrum of African history and contributions is crucial for a more complete understanding of humanity's past. The Olmec culture is one of the earliest known civilizations in Mesoamerica, flourishing from approximately 1200 BCE to 400 BCE. Recent genetic studies have provided insights into the origins and connections of the Olmecs. Some findings suggest that the Olmecs share genetic markers with later Mesoamerican populations, supporting the idea of continuity in the region's indigenous peoples. 1. Ancestral connections. Genetic evidence indicates that the Olmecs may be linked to the broader population of indigenous peoples in Mesoamerica, suggesting a shared ancestry with later cultures. The Olmec culture played a foundational role in the development of Mesoamerican civilization, and genetic findings continue to shed light on their connections to later populations. Understanding the Olmecs helps to appreciate the complexity and richness of ancient cultures in the Americas. The Olmecs are not considered African, nor are they directly linked to the ancestry of today's African Americans. The Olmec civilization is indigenous to Mesoamerica, specifically in regions of modern-day Mexico, and they are recognized as one of the earliest complex societies in the Americas. The Olmecs are part of the indigenous peoples of Mesoamerica, with cultural and genetic ties to the populations that have inhabited the region for thousands of years. While there are diverse cultural and historical narratives that may draw connections between different civilizations, there is no credible evidence to support the claim that the Olmecs are progenitors of today's African Americans or that they have African origins. The Olmecs are an indigenous Mesoamerican civilization with their own unique history and culture, separate from African civilizations. Claims linking them to African ancestry or the ancestry of African Americans lack historical and genetic support. The tale of Queen Khalifa originates from a 16th-century Spanish romance novel titled Los Sergas de Esplandian, The Adventures of Esplandian, written by Garci Rodriguez de Montalvo. In this fictional narrative, Queen Khalifa is depicted as the ruler of a mythical island called California, which is described as a place of great wealth and beauty inhabited by Amazons. The story portrays Queen Khalifa as a powerful and enchanting figure, leading her kingdom with strength and wisdom. The island is described as a paradise filled with gold and precious stones, and it is said to be located just off the coast of the mainland, inspiring the name California. #origins. The name California was first used in the early 16th century when Spanish explorers, influenced by Montalvo's novel, referred to the land they encountered along the western coast of North America. The association with the character Queen Khalifa and her mythical paradise contributed to the romanticized image of California during the Age of Exploration.
Conclusion.
The story of Queen Khalifa serves as a blend of myth and literature that influenced the naming of California. Her character reflects the themes of adventure and discovery prevalent in early Spanish literature, leaving a lasting legacy in the cultural history of the region. Individuals may utilize social media to spread misinformation about America being Egypt for several reasons. Some people seek attention and validation, and controversial or sensational claims can attract followers and engagement. Individuals may genuinely believe in these alternative narratives and feel compelled to share their perspectives, viewing themselves as truth-tellers. Spreading such ideas can help create a sense of belonging among like-minded individuals who share similar beliefs, fostering an online community. Some individuals may hold anti-establishment views and use misinformation to challenge mainstream narratives, promoting their interpretations of history. The spread of misinformation on social media can stem from a combination of personal beliefs, social dynamics, and the desire for recognition. Understanding these motivations is essential for addressing the challenges of misinformation in the digital age.
I'm a shot for you, turtle.